the Rambler Network.
Good morning! Welcome back to The Digressor. I'm Trevor. In this episode, I will be covering the Liberty Bell 7. I am pretty sure probably 99% of the people listening to this has never heard of Liberty Bell 7. It is only the second manned space flight ever. Well, at least in the U.S. The very first one was on May 5th, 1961. Alan Shepard. He piloted there's a Mercury spacecraft called the Freedom 7. It was a suborbital flight. He went up, came back down, did not orbit. And then a couple months later, on July 21st, 1961, Gus Grissom. He's more commonly known as Gus Grissom, but his name is Virgil. Sometimes he's known as Virgil Grissom, but I write it down as Virgil Gus Grissom. I don't know why I explained that. Anyway, he became the second person to go into space. The second American to go into space, I might add, because Russia did it first. Yuri did it earlier. I didn't write that one down, so I don't know the date. Yeah. He went up on Liberty Bell 7 on July 21st, 1961. It was also a suborbital flight. I can't words. The name of the spacecraft was actually Mercury Redstone 4, but Grissom nicknamed it Liberty Bell 7, and that's, I think that was a tradition. It launched into space on that day, and it was his first ever flight. So the flight actually only lasted 15 minutes and 30 seconds. It reached an altitude of 102.8 nautical miles. And the whole thing went according to plan. He went up suborbital. Basically just they didn't really do anything. Like the first two flights up there, they just went suborbital, flipped a few switches, like, hey, I made it, and then they went back down. So it's just more of can we even do this type of thing. And so, yeah, that's why it only lasted 15 minutes. You went up, came down, and the whole thing went entirely to plan. And it probably wouldn't have even really made much of a dent in history, because it was the second flight. Do you remember the second ones to make it onto the moon? They don't go into the moon. Yeah, no. But the reason we're talking about this now is that after the capsule made splashdown, after the mission was over, the hatch actually blew too early, and water began to flood into the capsule. And Grissom, well, luckily, he was rescued in time. And there's actually footage of there's the helicopter. It comes over, picks him up, and after it picks him up, the capsule actually flips over into the water and then sinks. So, the helicopter did try to carry, because they were trying to save the capsules. So the helicopter did make an attempt to save the capsule, but the water pouring in, it was too heavy. And unfortunately, the tether snapped from all the extra weight, and Liberty Bell 7 sank to the bottom of the sea. There was an investigation afterwards. They initially tried to blame Grissom for the loss of the capsule. There was uh, there was an emergency hatch explosion button thing that he could you could hit the button in case there was an emergency to make the capsule hatch blow out, and they thought maybe he did that, like maybe he panicked and he pressed the button and made it go. But in order to press the button, you have to have a lot of force. You have to like really hit the button, and that would leave a bruise. And he didn't have that bruise, so they ended up saying, okay, maybe it wasn't him. And I don't know if they would have charged him for anything, but I guess in a matter of speaking, all charges were dropped. I don't think they actually really charged him with anything. That'd be weird, but yeah, I mean, it was like $1 million investment on their part for the capsule. But yeah, it was just lost at sea forever. Or was it? No, no, actually, it wasn't. In 1999, a crew actually went searching for Liberty Bell 7, and they tried to raise it, and they were successful. It is now there's actually a 2 hour documentary on the search and discovery and raising of the Liberty Bell 7. It's on YouTube, the whole documentary. It's really interesting. I saw it a long time ago. A long time ago. It is remember how I said that in my earlier episodes I had a blog long ago and I had a lot of fun, like a bunch of random facts I would post about. This was one of them. Most of what I talked about here I was actually just reading from that. I did a little more research and expanded on it. But yeah, the documentary is on YouTube. There's a 1983 film called The Right Stuff where Fred Ward plays Gus Grissom, and it includes a dramatization of Liberty Bell 7. The film came out in 1983. I unfortunately have not seen that. I can't find it anywhere. I was going to watch it before recording this. Instead, I watched the first episode of From the Earth to the Moon because I read somewhere that it includes it. It does not. It does not include it. I don't know why they would say that. However, Rolston does play Gus Grissom in From Earth to the Moon, and just watching the first episode, it was interesting. Like it's not like I was watching it like, "Hi, get to the Liberty Bell 7," and like it wasn't like that. It was. I only saw the first episode. I do plan on watching the whole thing. That's really unrelated to this. It's just I was only watching it just to watch that, and then it didn't play it, and I'm like, okay, I'm actually invested. I'm gonna keep watching this. Hi, me in editing. Yeah, I forgot to point out that the Right Stuff, the movie that I mentioned before, it was remade a couple years ago for Disney Plus as a TV show. But don't go looking for it. I went looking for it. I couldn't find it on Disney Plus. I thought, oh, that's weird. That it's made for Disney Plus. It should be on Disney Plus. No, apparently Disney hated it and they canceled it after the first season and then removed it because they did not like it. I wanted to see it. It looked interesting. I saw a little clip of it and it looked interesting, but nope. They made a remake and it did include the Liberty Bell 7 and they left it out. They cut it from the streaming service. Also, the 2016 film Hidden Figures, it also has Dwayne McGee as Gus Grissom as a character in the movie, which I saw that movie when it came out and I really liked it and I highly recommend it. There is one more bit of info on here I was saving to the end. Gus Grissom was one of the astronauts that was on Apollo 1. And if you don't know the story of the Apollo 1 mission, it ended up not actually happening because while they were still on the launch pad, the capsule caught fire and the hatch was unable to open, and all of the astronauts in the capsule were killed. So it's just a few years after he survived the Liberty Bell 7, he was killed on Apollo 1 before it even launched. Ironically, it was also a faulty hatch. So yeah, that was a little odd looking back at it now that I think about it. As for where the capsule is now, it is currently on permanent display at the Cosmosphere in Hutchinson, Kansas. And I've heard of it. I've seen pictures and videos and stuff. It looks really interesting. It's like the largest collection of like space history stuff, and it looks really interesting, and I want to go, and not, and especially just to see this, and they like cleaned it up. You see the Liberty Bell 7, and they raise it up, and it's all dirty and grimy, and it has like all like the sea stuff on it, and it's rusty because it'd been underwater for like 30 something years. And then you see the pictures and videos of it on display now, and it's all shiny and silver and cleaned up, and it's all cool, and I like it. I want to go see it. But I digress.
The Rambler Network.